You're listening to Becoming Wildly Resilient, brought to you by University of Kentucky Human Resources, Health and Wellness. Join us as we explore tools, practices, meditations, and conversations with the members of the UK community. Together, we will discover how we can thrive at work, home, and beyond. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Becoming Wildly Resilient Conversations. My name is Sebastian Calmes. I'm a wellness specialist with UK HR Health and Wellness and your host for today's episode. We're going to be talking about forgiveness with the UK HR health coaches Jackie Carroll and Amy Rodquist-Kodet. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into this topic and see what we can find out. Amy, in your practice, you mentioned sometimes forgiveness can be difficult because it feels forced, like we have to hurry up and get to that space. Mm-hmm. Why is it hard to move into that space of forgiveness? And how could we become more aware of toxic forgiveness where we're not ready for it? We're trying to push ourselves to that point.
Dr. Nidra Tawwab, who's a therapist, she used that phrase toxic forgiveness, where essentially toxic forgiveness is that unhealthy way people pretend to be like, over it, it's fine, it didn't hurt me at all. I was completely unharmed by that super painful, traumatic offense. For me, at least, it touches on some of those tendencies of people pleasing, of being seen as a good person, forgiving to keep the peace for my own attempts at not making waves. When I start to feel that resentment or that resistance, that's a really important sign for me to pay attention, to slow it down and be like, what's going on here? Because that old adage, forgive and forget, isn't healthy, nor is it based in research. Nobody is suggesting you forgive and then forget the offense, because I think there's a lot of helpful information to take a look at and pay attention to the wrong that was done to us. Maybe we need some boundaries with that person. Maybe we need to have a difficult conversation about what our needs are, what felt unsafe. And when we try to leapfrog over the pain, the resistance, I think we get stuck, or at least I certainly do, because it always comes out. That pain has to be looked at. It has to be paid attention to, noticed, and processed. When we try to stuff it in the corner, yeah, I forgive you, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, then it comes out later. It affects the relationship. I think toxic forgiveness is something that resonated with me because I could see I was doing some of that in relationships where I knew we were going to have a difficult conversation. Those were the ones that I was most likely to practice that quick forgiveness.
You may feel you've reached this place where, okay, I'm past this, I forgive them, let's move on. But then anger or the past hurt comes up again. It doesn't seem like it's a one and done process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of psychologists and therapists talk in the phrasing of ruptures and repair. When a person comes to us with an honest attempt at repair, it can be so helpful and healthy to a relationship versus the rupture. If it isn't looked at, if it isn't talked about, it continues, it grows. You were saying it comes up again, even if it's not about the initial rupture. If we at least haven't looked at it ourselves, there's going to be a pattern there, these kind of little traumas.
How about you, Jackie? What's been your experience with, say, you've forgiven something, but you still feel the hurt of it later?
I have read this book, Untethered Soul, and it is a reminder to me that it is up to us as to how we respond. When I know that I need to forgive someone and I feel like, no, I feel like this bratty Jackie's, no way, no. But then I'm like, wait a minute. If I think about it, what is holding me back from forgiving? It's probably something within me. It's not saying that what happened to me was okay, but it's up to me to heal the part that needs to be healed for me. Forgiving to me is so that I don't keep poisoning myself with anger, resentment, and bitterness. I need to free myself up. What yuck do I need to look at in Jackie's heart and mind that's difficult and let that go? I might have to forgive another person. I might have to forgive myself, which could be the hardest part of forgiveness. That is a lot of times what I look at when I just can't let it go. I keep digging deeper into myself, and it's not awesome, but I know that's what I need to do.
Yeah. You mentioned forgiving yourself. That suggests self-forgiveness. Is there a distinction between self-forgiveness and then a more general forgiveness where someone's wronged you and you say to them, I forgive you?
In my life and in my examples that I can think of, if I have a hard time forgiving myself, it's because I feel like I hurt someone else or I let someone else down. Sometimes that's hard for me to really get over. I park in the shame parking lot and I sit there. Then the guilt comes by. Yeah, you should stay here. Don't get out of this. I have to take time. Like we were saying, it isn't a one and done when 2 hours after the event or 2 years after the event. It's a constant. Every day, every moment, a new trigger might arrive that makes me feel like, oh, I didn't forgive myself for that, or I didn't forgive that person for this. Every moment, just allowing it to be, keep moving through it, just like Amy said, because it's not a one and done.
It's not a one and done. We're going to feel these hurts even after we think we've forgiven. It's like we have to continue to forgive.
I like to remind myself what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't. Forgiveness is a choice. It's something we choose to open our hearts to. I really liked what you said, Jackie. It's this idea of working within us so that the poison doesn't keep infecting us. We have no control over what the other person does or feels, etc. I also like to remember that forgiveness doesn't mean that it's a finite event. I think that's what I used to think, that forgiveness was a one and done. I choose to forgive you, boom. And I don't think that's how it plays out. Forgiveness also, for me, it doesn't mean I have to forget, doesn't mean that it was okay, that somehow if I forgive the situation, that makes the wrong okay, because it certainly doesn't. Forgiveness doesn't mean I'm not going to feel upset or hurt about it in the future. It's okay. I can still practice forgiveness. It's a practice that I do over and over again instead of this one time action. It also means that I can keep talking about what has hurt me. I don't have to stay in an unhealthy relationship. I can forgive that person, and I can also set a boundary and say, this isn't healthy for me. We're not going to stay in relationship anymore. I think that's what really helps me to remember, is that this isn't a one-time thing. It's a choice again and again, and that I can still have big feelings about it.
Would you say that either of you use compassion as a part of the forgiveness practice? As an example, I had a life event where one of my family members was rude to me after I didn't do something the way they thought it should be done. And we didn't speak for a while, for almost a year. At first, this was upsetting for me and it hurt. But personally, I saw them for who they were and where they were in life. It helped me understand why they would act that way, which in turn helped me deal with my stuff and start a healing process. Is that something viable for other people? Maybe even understanding where the other person is coming from. Not that their actions are right, but understanding why they did what they did.
I totally resonate with that. I have heard this quote. It's something like, hurting people hurt people and healed people heal people. I do try to think, wow, they must be hurting so much that they had to do X, Y, and Z, not just to me, but to anybody. All of us are walking around trying to get our needs met. And sometimes that means hurting others so that they feel better. And that happens, especially with kids, bullying and all of that. I've talked to my kids about this. It is true that if we hold the space for our own healing, we also hold the space for others' healing. Even if that person has hurt us deeply, we can move away from how to blame them and to allow them the space to heal and grow, give them grace, just like people have given us grace. It is, for me, one of the most helpful tools. It's not easy, but it's very helpful because I look at somebody, if they did something to me, what's behind the reason why they did that? It's probably fear, doubt, or shame that they're dealing with that somehow got portrayed onto me.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Amy?
Yeah, I agree. I brought up in the practice that I did on forgiveness, Dr. Fred Luskin's work. He has studied forgiveness for decades. He's got a forgiveness lab at Stanford. This guy knows about forgiveness, but it's still so challenging for him. He lays out this 9-step process for working through forgiveness. And one of them is exactly what you were talking about, Sebastian. Try to shift your perspective on what happened. It's that perspective of seeing the other person that allows us to soften. I find that to be incredibly inspiring. It's accepting the situation as it is, not how we'd like it to be.
Accepting that you've been wronged, this is not an ideal situation, and going forward from there.
And you may
Yeah.
have big feelings about it. And that's okay. It doesn't mean there has to be a resolution with you and the other person. I think that's really freeing too. It goes back to what you were saying, Jackie. Forgiveness is the process for us. That other person may or may not ever
Yeah.
come to us with repentance, or they may never change their behavior. But our practice and the practice that Dr. Luskin has laid out is what we can do to work through our own process for forgiveness, with or without that other person.
Definitely, yeah. And Jackie, you mentioned holding the space for ourselves, and if we choose, the other person as well. For people that haven't heard that phrase before, what does it mean to hold the space?
For me, it means being in a humble, peaceful place in my heart and mind and able to not jump to a response that I would not want for myself or the other person. It's allowing more feelings, more healing, instead of blaming, shaming, and the negative spiral that comes with most often the feelings that we need to have when somebody's hurt us. It takes so much courage to get to this place. I honor people who have had hard things happen to them and they can still genuinely have grace for the
Yeah.
other party that has hurt them. That's what I mean. It's those kinds of people, they're not born like that. They had to work a lot of work in their heart and mind to get to that place. When we're there, we can offer that same peace, openness, and kindness towards others so they can also have the courage to show up.
Meaning
And
when we're holding the space for ourselves, we're in a
yeah.
better position to hold the space for others.
Mhm. One of the things that I do when I have a big thing I'm trying to get forgiveness for, I will walk out into a field and I will say, I need forgiveness for blah, 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 blah. I want to say it out loud. I speak it out so that I don't hold it in and keep festering it. Like Amy said, it doesn't matter what the other person does, says, or thinks. If the other person never forgives me, I still want to say what I need forgiveness for.
Mm-hmm. That's suggesting that self-forgiveness may have a stronger impact than receiving forgiveness from somebody else.
I would say the forgiveness we offer ourselves is what we can control. Therefore, we can practice that and grow that. I think the more we offer forgiveness to ourselves, like you were saying, Jackie, the more capacity we have to grow our forgiveness muscle for other people. There's different levels of ruptures and traumas. The bigger the trauma, the more support you're going to need with the forgiveness practice and process. In college, I was working for a restaurant chain and experienced terrible harassment and ended up needing to leave that job. I carried some trauma, some really bad pain in my body and in my heart. It wasn't until I got myself into therapy that I was able to see this is all connected. When I don't feel safe in an environment, my body has a reaction to that. I need to work with calming my body, but also work with that event that happened. If you're doing all the practices and you're trying to work with forgiveness, reach out to get some support, whether that's through our therapist at UK or other therapists.
And we don't necessarily have to reach out to someone that's wronged us to forgive them. We can work with ourselves and forgive from a distance, right?
Yeah, with that restaurant example, I never had an interaction with the staff that were problematic. It was all done afterwards. Sometimes that's surprising. We think, oh, we have to talk with the perpetrator, the person that's done us wrong. That doesn't play out. Yeah, great. If you can have that closure in a safe space, amazing. A lot of times we can't. That person's dead or out of our lives. That doesn't mean that we still can't get the healing and forgiveness, especially with a helpful professional.
There's a lot of impetus on the idea that the forgiveness practice starts, continues, and ends with you. It's up to you. It's in your control. The part about forgiveness that's in your control is self-forgiveness. That's huge because that's an empowering idea to focus on our circle of control, which is a topic that you guys covered previously.
Dr. Luskin, the forgiveness researcher, talks about how brave of a choice it is to forgive, how it is a process that mimics a windy road. I love that because over and over, I think, aren't I done with this yet? Please, are we back to square one? It's not a finite here to there. It is a windy road. Give ourselves grace in the process for when it's taking us longer than what we think it's supposed to. Keep going.
Something I've learned so far is that we don't have an obligation to reach out to anybody. If it's not appropriate, it's not appropriate. If we don't feel safe doing it, that's okay.
100%. I don't think that can be emphasized enough.
Seeing forgiveness as a courageous process makes me think of strength. Do you think it's appropriate to see forgiveness as strength?
Yeah, definitely. The research plays out that practicing forgiveness in our relationships strengthens relationships. It is core to be able to ask for forgiveness and give forgiveness.
Does that build trust too?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. What happens when we bottle up resentment, stress, anger, fear, betrayal? It explodes. It comes out and affects our relationships personally and professionally. So being able to release that and work with those difficult feelings within a relationship gives the relationship more flourishing.
And having that sense of safety, if you are in a safe relationship with a friend, family member, or loved one, you can speak about this. But if you're not, you're going to do the toxic forgiveness just to appease the other person. And that makes the grudge, keeping it
Yeah.
bottled up. We set the other person free because we don't want to muddy the waters, but we're still holding all of that within. So feeling safe in a place where we can say what we want to say and know that it's going to be heard.
Yeah. I like what you said about setting the other person free. Is forgiving someone like releasing them? And if so, what are we releasing them from?
it feels like we're releasing ourselves. Because who knows what they're going to do with it, how they're going to experience it, right? That stuff's out of our control. But when we are able to enter that genuine process of forgiveness with whatever the situation was, it feels like we release ourselves from the anger, the rejection, whatever it is going on for us.
Mm. In writing that question, I was thinking about the word itself, forgive. And it has some Greek origins. One of the translations was to release. If I'm forgiving someone and I'm releasing them, I do agree that I am releasing myself. Then could it be it's as if I'm releasing them or helping to release them from their shame, regret, or guilt? In doing that, it's like an act of compassion in itself.
Yeah, I think the intention or the reason why I would want to forgive is to release myself and the other person from entanglement. And whether the other person responds the way I want them to, it's up to me. Like we've said already, it's up to me to keep freeing myself, keep doing what it takes to stay released from entanglement. Even like we said earlier, another trigger from another person or another situation could come sweeping into my life, and I would have that same response. I need to
Yeah.
forgive again, but it's a different person. And I would think, why did I do that again? Just like Amy said, it's a windy road. We got to keep on the path. But what I think is so honorable is if we are self aware enough to know, oh, there it is again. And now it's like this. So what do I need to do? Where do I need to go from here? That's what I think is so important in this practice is being aware that we have the entanglement. And then do we have the courage to do what it takes to let ourself and the other person be released?
How can we continue to develop that awareness to recognize entanglements in our life?
Ooh, I think it is all in the feelings. Dr. Susan David at Harvard talks about difficult feelings being like roadmaps or road signs. She calls them signposts. And for me, I know, ooh, when resentment bubbles up, pay attention. When rage is at the top, pay attention. It feels like that's where I really notice the work. It's like an invitation. Okay, something's out of alignment here. I need a new boundary. I need to recognize where I'm out of my values or whatever. For me, the sticky, difficult feelings are like, whew, what are these trying to tell me? Something's
Mm.
up.
So there's a message in emotions, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and in the body, like the
Mm.
racing heart, that parasympathetic nervous system, that feeling in the belly, our body signals will help us recognize too. Oh, we're really tight when this person comes around, or oh, we've had this feeling of dread or nausea. Okay, notice it. Our
Yeah.
body is telling us something, so pay attention to it. Then ask a difficult feeling. What are you trying to tell me? Nausea? What do you want me to know? Getting underneath some of those feelings or body sensations to see if we can get some clarity around what's going on there.
When you get the body sensation, it has a message for you, and then we can communicate with ourselves. What is the message you're holding for me? And do we just try to find the answer in silence, or do we have to pay more attention to where we are in our life, what's going on? Is this a situation where a light bulb goes off? Oh, well, I'm feeling this tightness in my chest because I'm nervous for this thing coming up. Is that something where we have to search ourselves to see what the message is?
Yeah, I think when we begin paying attention, we're going to notice the patterns of those usual suspects. For me, for instance, when I start to feel blamed for something, ooh, like there's like an immediate physiological response, even if it's just me perceiving it as blame. My whole nervous system gets pretty riled up because of stuff from a
Yeah.
long time ago. I think when you begin to recognize the patterns, you notice, okay, I got a top 3 of really difficult trigger points to pay attention to that can really help us navigate what's going on. Where are our sensitivities? Where do we need extra amounts of compassion and graciousness with ourselves?
There's trends. We're going to have some trends. Certain things are going to activate our emotions more than others, and it's probably unique for everybody what their trigger is, what their hot spots are.
There's a really amazing book called Your Body Keeps a Score. Things like headaches, neck pain, hip pain, back pain, stomach issues. These are all the areas that most often stress is acknowledged. As a yoga teacher, I'm constantly helping people release their shoulders, relax their jaw, soften around the hips, and helping people care for their bodies, even if people can't really pinpoint what emotion is triggering them or what life situation is triggering them. The body, like Amy was saying, is probably the first messenger. Just moving the body could be the first step, whether it's just taking a walk. Doesn't have to be a yoga class. I think breathing itself, the breath practice, is one way to release how we're feeling. Our natural pressure release is, how often do we allow ourselves to do that? Normally, these strong emotions are the ones that are the heaviest, at least for me. I would say, for me personally, if I've already got stuff bottled up and then something stressful comes on top, there is no room for Jackie Land calm to come in. You got to make the space. I have to do something. I have to move my body. I have to do that hard conversation. I have to stick to what I know I need.
Yeah. Make the space, hold the space.
Yep.
We started out talking about how forgiveness is a choice. And I think there's something about giving ourselves permission that if we are not ready yet, we're not ready yet. If we are still processing the grief, if we are still trying to understand what is going on, and forgiveness feels like too fast, too much. I know for me, giving myself that message that it's okay to slow this down and to begin that process when I'm ready, that choice, that freedom, that autonomy goes a long way for me to even speed up the process, honestly. I know if I am forced, and that goes back into that toxic forgiveness thing, get over it, figure this out, jump ahead. And so slowing down the process, reminding yourself, if we need more time, then we need more time. And that's going to look different for each person.
I think that's right on, Amy. You mentioned Susan David earlier, and I'm reading Susan David's Emotional Agility. She said something that you've just said, that by accepting where we are right now, and say that acceptance is, I'm not ready to forgive, that might move us along that path sooner. By accepting where you are, you're moving yourself along to where you want to be.
Totally. Yeah, it's very counterintuitive. Yet I think there's a lot of truth there.
Also, we feel like we have the should list. Oh, I should forgive that person by now. I should forgive that person tomorrow. I should forgive myself for this tomorrow. Throw away the should list and stay the course, just like Amy was saying. It's a windy road. As long as we know we need healing because we know things don't feel right, we just stay the course.
I think that's what Dr. Brene Brown's work on shame has said. So often we're in that place of grief and shame can take over. She says the one place where shame can't live is in safety and community, and being able to communicate what's going on, to be able to talk about what we're experiencing literally lifts the lid off shame, and it can't breathe anymore. It doesn't have the oxygen anymore because there's empathy and compassion from other people is where shame can't live. So getting support, whether that's a supportive friend or a mental health practitioner, you don't have to go at this alone.
I'm thinking of all the ways I learned how to be in the place I'm in is through therapy, through books, through support. But what are some things that somebody could really get a hold of and help them? Gifts of Imperfection is a good book. I literally used to give that almost to every single person that I would talk to. I do believe that book helped me personally with a lot of shame around some things that happened to me when I was younger, because a lot of the shame, it could be related to things that you put a label on yourself
Mm.
from things that have happened to you in the past. You just can't break yourself out of it. Then you feel like, oh, I need to forgive myself because I acted on that thing that triggered me. Then you realize, no wonder why I did those things. I'm totally normal in the way I responded. And that's a sense of freedom too. At least for me, it helped me feel like, dang, I'm not the only person who felt this way. I'm not the only person who has dealt with this. I think having that as a support system is also really empowering for people.
Mhm. Absolutely. Can it be concluded that forgiveness can help us live healthier lives?
Rumor has it. Yeah. When I was looking at the research on forgiveness for the practices episode, it's vast. Specifically, what happens with unforgiveness when we are stuck in this place of resentment, anger, rage, a tortured soul that has huge impacts on health. I thought that research was interesting. Therefore, on the other side of that, there is research on forgiveness specifically being good for us and strengthening our relationships.
So the cost of not releasing ourselves, say through a forgiveness process, is our own well-being and our own peace. Yet it will likely take courage, and maybe even a tremendous amount of courage, to take steps every day in that healing process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a brave choice to forgive. And just like we were talking about, it is a process, a winding road.
Forgiveness, the winding road.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to Becoming Wildly Resilient. This podcast is brought to you by University of Kentucky Human Resources, Health and Wellness. We offer a wide range of online and in-person services to support the well-being of UK employees, retirees, and their spouses. You can find experts in mental health, personal resilience, nutrition, and physical activity. We're ready to meet you where you are and address your unique needs. To learn more about the work life and well-being services offered by UK Human Resources, visit hr.uky.edu/wellbeing. You can also connect with us on social media and YouTube by searching @UKY Wellness or by email at healthandwellness@uky.edu.